Have you ever walked into school and felt invisible? Or maybe loud spaces just feel too heavy and you wish you could disappear into a quiet corner? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Being an introvert in school isn't about being shy or broken. It's about navigating a world that often favors the loudest voices. Today we're going to talk about how to survive school as an introvert without faking confidence or pretending to be someone you're not. Hi guys, I'm Daria and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, this is a space for self-growth, building confidence, and becoming your true self in a way that feels natural and effortless. Today we're diving into something deeply personal to me, how to embrace your introversion, stop apologizing for your quietness, and actually start seeing it as your greatest strength. I'll also be sharing my personal experience and tips that might help you along the way, because being quiet doesn't make you less, it just means your power shows up differently. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. When quiet feels like a mistake. Sometimes being quiet feels heavier than people think it does. You're sitting in class, tracing the edges of your notebook, waiting for the right moment to speak. You know the answer, you've practiced the words in your head once, twice, but before you can open your mouth, someone else says it first. The teacher nods, the room moves on, and you're left with the small ache. I could have said that. You stay quiet, and slowly that quiet starts to feel like something wrong, like a mistake. Comments like, "You're so quiet," or "Do you ever talk?" just draws more attention to it. I'm an introvert myself, and I know exactly how that can feel. I've had my quiet pointed out too. One time, a classmate, not even a close friend, just someone passing by, asked me, "Why are you always so quiet?" I remember being caught off guard thinking, what a weird question to ask. It's not something I'd say to someone, especially if I barely knew them. I remember I just froze for a second and was a little confused with the question. I don't really remember exactly what I said, but I think it was something like, because I want to, or something like that. When you're a teenager, a question like that can hit differently. It can make you wonder if there's something wrong with you, if being quiet somehow makes you less. But as you grow older, you start to see it for what it is. Just a weird, thoughtless question. One that says more about the person asking than about you. And most likely, they didn't mean anything by it. Now that I'm older, I know what I'd say. I know that my quiet isn't something to defend or explain, and that no one is owed an answer, because at the end of the day, it's nobody's business how much space you take up with your voice. But when you're younger, the world doesn't make that easy to believe. When the loudest voices gets the praise, silence can start to feel like failure. You begin to wonder, should I force myself to talk more, to be more active? Should I pretend to be louder? And then somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispers back, but that's not me. Understand this. Being quiet isn't the opposite of confidence. It's simply another way of moving through life. You notice things others miss. You think before you speak. You feel deeply, even when you don't show it. That's not something to fix. It's something to understand and embrace. Being an introvert can be a kind of superpower. Individuals like Keanu Reeves, Cillian Murphy, Lana Del Rey, Billie Eilish show that being soft-spoken or reserved doesn't diminish what you can do. Their quiet nature doesn't stand in the way of their talent or self-expression. It shapes it. They shine through their work, their art, and the way they carry themselves, proving that introspection can be just as powerful as boldness. And the truth is, this is something you can do too. You can honor your quiet, trust your instincts, and let your natural way of being guide the way you shine. Your introspection isn't a limitation, it's a strength waiting for you to use it. Quiet doesn't mean invisible, it can be the very thing that helps you stand out in your own way. Chapter 2. Why the common solutions don't work. You've probably heard advice like, just speak up more or join more clubs. On the surface, these sound helpful. It's easy to think there is a simple formula for confidence. Speak louder, be seen more, push yourself into the spotlight. But for introverts, this approach often misses the mark. It assumes that being loud or highly social automatically equals confidence. And it ignores something important. Confidence doesn't have to look like standing in front of the class or being the center of attention. For introverts, forcing extroverted behaviors can backfire. Raising your hand when your mind isn't ready, joining every club just to fit in, or trying to become the loud, outgoing version of yourself can feel draining, inauthentic, and even discouraging. It can make you question your worth or wonder if you're doing something wrong, when in reality the problem isn't you, it's the idea that confidence has only one acceptable form. That's exhausting. It's not empowering. It's pretending. True confidence for an introvert comes from understanding your limits, honoring your need for downtime, and finding ways to shine quietly. It's about valuing your voice, even if it's softer, and trusting that it still matters. You don't need to perform to prove your presence or compete with extroverted classmates to earn respect. When you speak because you're ready, not because you're forced, your words carry weight. Even small acts like helping a friend or sharing one thought can leave a bigger mark than the loudest person in the room. You don't have to speak all the time to matter. When you do, it counts because it's real. You don't need to push yourself to do everything all at once. Forcing yourself into situations you're not ready can actually make it harder to step out of your comfort zone. It's much better to take things little by little, step by step. For example, as a teenager, the idea of starting a YouTube channel would have felt overwhelming. I wouldn't have been ready, and I certainly wouldn't have had the confidence I do now. Honestly, teenage me would have been so proud to see that I eventually did it, even if it started with tiny, uncertain steps. So I started small. First, I posted photos on Instagram, learned how to pose in front of the camera, which, by the way, I was shy and uncomfortable with at the time. My first photos show me looking half away from the camera. Gradually, I started doing small talking stories, then short talking reels in my feed, and eventually I worked up to YouTube. As an introvert, this is how I started building my speaking confidence. Forcing myself into uncomfortable moments too soon only made me more nervous and tense. For example, in school, I used to get nervous presenting in front of the class, and just by doing those presentations didn't really build my confidence. It just made me dread it more. But content creation, posting photos, stories, and videos little by little helped me grow at my own pace. If I had to give a presentation now, I'd feel much more comfortable and confident. Starting small in ways that felt manageable allowed me to grow in confidence naturally at my own pace. Understand that introverted confidence grows in ways that can't be forced. It's built on self-awareness, reflection, and trusting your own timing. By leaning into your natural rhythm and honoring your energy, you discover that being yourself is not a limitation. It's a quiet, steady strength that lasts far longer than a moment of forced attention. Chapter 3: How I Survived School as an Introvert. My experience. I have to say, looking back now, I don't remember seeing many introverted students around me. Most of the time, it felt like the more extroverted students dominated the space, socializing, laughing, and having friends always around. Meanwhile, I was more of an observer, watching from afar and just quietly reflecting on where I belong at it all. I know how it can feel to sit alone in class, during breaks, or even at lunch when there isn't always someone to go with. At first, it felt a little awkward being on my own while everyone else was around socializing, and I was just quietly observing. It took some time getting used to, but over time, I started to actually enjoy the peace and quiet. Being alone gave me space to think, reflect, and just be my own head. It almost felt like a form of meditation, and it still feels that way today. Quality time alone helps me recharge and re-energize. I also realized that the fact that someone looks like they have friends doesn't necessarily mean those friendships are deep. Some of those friendships are only school friends and will naturally go their separate ways once school ends. Another thing, you don't need to worry for a second about how you look when you're alone. The truth is, most of the time, no one is really thinking about you. They're all caught up in their own thoughts, just like you. And I know it's easy to fall into the habit of overthinking, wondering, how do I look, or what are they thinking about me? But most people aren't thinking about you at all. And even if they are, why should it matter? You're not doing life for them, you're doing it for you. And if someone has time to judge you, let them. It says far more about their mindset than it does about you. During my free time or breaks, I like to fill my time with small activities. I listen to music, read a book, prepare for upcoming lessons, or do my homework. I was comfortable working on my own in other areas too. Even when it came to group projects, I often chose to work alone. I'd had experiences where others didn't do their part and I'd be left waiting. By working alone, I was in charge of my own work and didn't have to rely on anyone. I found joy in that independence and in knowing that I could fully trust myself to get the job done. Looking back, surviving school as an introvert wasn't about trying to be louder or more social. It was about embracing who I was, finding comfort in my own company, and discovering that being alone isn't lonely. It can be empowering. It taught me patience, self-reliance, and how to enjoy the small moments that others might overlook. What I realized most is that your value doesn't come from being the most visible or having the most friends. It comes from being quietly confident in yourself. Trust me, once you're fully comfortable in your own skin, you walk through the world unshaken. You won't be looking around for validation because you'll know that you on your own are more than enough. Chapter 4: Practical, Actionable Tips. How to survive school without faking it. So how do you actually survive school without pretending to be someone you're not? Here are some gentle, realistic strategies that can help you if you're more on the introverted side. The first thing I'd suggest is to create small, genuine moments of connection. You don't need to be loud or outgoing to make real connections. A quiet hi in the hallway, a smile to a classmate who looks lonely, or sharing one small thought in class can go a long way. Tiny moments of kindness add up, and often they're remembered more than loud introductions or big gestures. Another thing is protect your energy. Give yourself permission to recharge. Maybe that means spending 10 quiet minutes in the library, taking a short walk between classes, or simply sitting alone and breathing. Alone time isn't a weakness, it's how you restore your balance. Don't feel guilty for needing it. Something else that helped me a lot was learning to use my listening superpower. Introverts are often great observers. You notice small details others miss, the tone in someone's voice, the unspoken emotions, the tiny shifts in the room. That awareness makes you an amazing friend, classmate, and teammate, even without speaking all the time. Then try to find your safe spaces, whether it's a favorite bench, a quiet corner, or the library, or a small club where you feel comfortable. Having even one place where you feel relaxed and accepted can transform your whole experience. It can make school feel less overwhelming, less draining, and more manageable. You don't need to be everywhere, just somewhere that feels like you. Next, set realistic goals. Instead of forcing yourself to go to every event, pick one or two that feel manageable each week. It's better to show up fully present than to burn out trying to be everywhere. Connection isn't about quantity, it's about quality. And lastly, keep yourself gently busy when you're alone. As I mentioned before, I liked keeping myself occupied whenever I was alone, doing something I enjoyed and spending that time with quality. Maybe that's listening to music, sketching, journaling, or studying. Because if you just sit there doing nothing, staring at everyone else, of course you'll start to feel lonely. So my strong recommendation: keep yourself busy in a way that nourishes you. You start enjoying your own company more than you thought possible. At the end of the day, being introverted in school doesn't mean you're missing out. It means you're living at your own pace. You're learning to balance solitude and connection, to know when to speak and when to listen. And that's a skill that will carry you far beyond school. Chapter 5. Let your introversion shine. By now, you've probably realized showing up as yourself takes far more courage than pretending ever will. The fact that you're here, reflecting, learning, and understanding yourself already says a lot about your quiet kind of courage. Have you ever noticed how the quietest people often see the most, feel the most, and think the deepest? That's the beauty of introversion. It's not about saying less, it's about feeling more, seeing more, and moving through life with intention. Being introverted doesn't mean being shy, weak, or antisocial. It means you value peace over chaos, truth over pretending, and connection over noise. And I know it's tempting to fall into the trap of thinking you're less than just because you're quieter, but don't. That's insecurity speaking. Don't listen to it. You observe before you act. You think before you speak. Extroverts might bring energy to a room, but introverts bring presence, and presence is powerful. I can assure you, the moment I realized being an introvert is actually a superpower, everything clicked. I started to see that my quietness wasn't holding me back. It was helping me move differently. I'm a good observer. I like to take things in before I act or speak. I'm also deeply focused and disciplined. I don't need constant noise, motivation, or company to get things done. I don't wait for anyone. I just do what I set my mind to. That independence, that self-drive is something I've come to value so much. As I mentioned earlier, that so many well-known people are introverts like Bill Gates, Meryl Streep, and Keanu Reeves, and that's not by accident. Their success often came from their ability to think deeply, focus, and to stay true to themselves. And that same quiet strength lives in you too. Don't ever think your introversion is something you need to fix. There's nothing broken to fix. You don't need to force yourself to be seen. Your calm energy already speaks volumes without saying a word. The more you align with who you are, the more grounded and magnetic you become. People can feel authenticity. It doesn't need to shout. You don't need to chase visibility to prove your worth. Being fully, quietly yourself is enough, more than enough. Your quiet isn't empty, it's full of depth, peace, and meaning. Never compare your journey to anyone else's. Everyone's timeline is different. You're not behind. You're just building something deeper, something real. And when you stop apologizing for your silence, it transforms into your greatest strength. Because once you stop fighting for who you are, the world starts to meet you where you are. So let your introversion shine, not as something to hide, not as something to fix, but as something to own. This is it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know that sometimes it's easy to feel like you're moving differently from everyone else, but that doesn't mean you're behind. Your pace has purpose, and it's leading you exactly where you're meant to go. If this spoke to you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram for more inspiration, and I'll see you in the next one.